Hey guys, what's up? Evan from Stock Music Musician, and today I've got a video on how to mix in Reason. I hope you enjoy this. If you do, please be sure to like and leave any comments you have down below if you've got any questions, if I go over something too quickly, or if you think I'm doing it just totally wrong. Also, if you enjoyed this, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Let's jump right in. The first thing when you mix is you want to kind of try and mix in the loudest and busiest part of the song. So I've set my loop markers to that part. That's a really good place to start. The next thing you want to do is set your levels and your panning so that the song sounds good. Now, I've already gone ahead and set the levels for this song. Basically, to get a well-rounded mix, this is probably the first and most important step. Do not rush past it. Also, don't be afraid to adjust it over time, but you want it so that everything is sort of balanced and you want the bass and the kick to pump through. You don't want anything to overwhelm, but this is really where a lot of your taste comes into play. You also are going to want to record it first, allow it to sort of sit there for a few days, come back, listen to it, maybe check it out on another set of speakers, because level is really where a lot of the magic happens, and if you get the levels wrong, you won't be able to fix it anywhere else without it sounding awful. Then you get to panning, and generally some things are best in the middle, low-end frequencies like bass, drums, whereas guitars, tambourines, little decorative things want to be panned out to the side. So I've already gone and done that as well, by and large. You can see I've automated some things to pan left to right and right to left. You can also automate the volume of instruments to fade in and fade out. That's a really good way to make your song sort of evolve over time. That's something I like to do later in the mix though. First, I just like to get the static levels there. The next thing I've done is added reverb, and I already did a previous video on how to add reverb really well in Reason. So I'll put a link to that up top. Now we're actually going to get into the content of this video. So I think the first step after you get the levels and the panning right is that you want to start doing the coloring processing, which means sort of adding some more textures like reverb. We're going to add a little bit of parallel processing. We're going to add some tape, and we might add a little bit of phasing. I don't think we will, but some colorful processing. Then from there, what we'll do is we'll go to EQ and compression, or parallel compression, and then we'll sort of bring it all together and tie it in a nice bow. So right now, let's just take a quick listen to this loop, and then we'll jump into adding the additional color. Changing the levels still. So there we go. We have a pretty simple rock track. We've just got a drum loop with a few cymbal hits added in, and then we've got a few live percussion tracks and a few percussion loops, a live bass, a few live guitar tracks, and then reverb over here and glitching, a glitch effect for transitions. So the first thing you're going to know is that organizing your track is very important for mixing. I like to bus all instruments of the same type to the same channel and then color code them so at a glance I can know what I'm working with. And then I like to use send effects. So I've done all the reverbs and long delays via send effect. If you want to know how to use send effects the right way, I've got a link to that. I'll put it up there. It's one of my most popular videos. I think a lot of people will get better mixing results if they start doing that. So let's start on the drums. And the first thing I want to do is go to parallel processing, because often, and I made a whole video on parallel processing actually, it's really important to this sort of thing. I'll put a link to that up there as well and down there. It's really important, especially on drums and bass. It can help you get a much fatter sound without losing sort of the heart of the drums or the bass. So this is my drum loop here, and what I'm going to do is just create a parallel channel. It's also now going to the drum bus, and what I'm going to do on this is just smack the hell out of it. So I'm just going to solo the drums. You don't want to EQ and solo that much, but for dialing in a parallel sound, I will do it. So we're going to open this up, and the effect I'm going to use, or the You can use any compressor, but the compressor that I want to use right now is the Native Instruments VC160. This is a really slappy, fast compressor. You're going to hear it's going to sound terrible when we do it initially, but what we want to do is just mix it into the regular drum track just to get a little more fatness and sustain. So let's, doesn't that sound awful? That sounds better, but we don't want it to sound better. That's about right. Now let's mix it in. This is the regular drums. So what I want you to listen for is just how much longer sort of the kick and the snare and the hits sort of just last a little longer. They're fatter, they're distorted down and then stretched out. So let's listen to again with it on and with it off. And we'll make it louder than we want. I don't want to add too much. Okay, so let's take Alright, so that's the first thing we want to do. Now for coloring, what I'm going to do is add tape effects to all of these buses. And also I'm going to add a waves processor, basically. Sort of it's the the NLS processor, which kind of mimics a old school console bus. So I'm using the bus because these are buses. I could put one on each individual channel, but that takes a lot of processing. So I've got the NLS there, and then I'm going to use, I'm also going to use the waves. I like the Kramer tape stereo. So I've got this on the drum bus, and I'm also going to put it on we'll get it dialed in. The reason I'm doing this is because this is a rock song, and so I want just a bit of rocky retro vibe to it. So here is the NLS. We'll listen to the drums soloed with it on. And we'll bypass the tape. And I think Mike sounds the best. Bypass. It's a little warmer. And we'll send you to VCA 1. Let's also hear Nevo. Now let's dial in the tape, and let's actually try a drum preset here. Drum kit. We want to make sure it's not clipping. It's bypassed, so we're not getting any results. Let's try that 15. That's a little better. I'm just trying to get the levels. Alright, so we got some nice low on there. Now let's hear it with the inserts bypassed. And on. Alright, so you hear how that just warms things up. We'll do the same thing on all of the buses here. So effects, and actually what we can do is just select both of these and drag them up, the bus and the tape. And now they should be here. We're going to change the settings a bit, but you should probably pretty much do it for the percussion as well. DCA group 2. Now the bass. Although the first thing I want to do is actually narrow the stereo width of the bass so that it doesn't take up as much room in the stereo field. So now that we've done that, let's listen to the difference. This allows a little more room for everything. Mic. A little bit of noise, a little bit of drag. Tape. That's a little too much. So let's bypass this. Do it on the guitar bass. And we'll just spare your ears. You could also use the Audiomatic here if you want the tape sound. Totally a good choice. But I think that the Kramer tape just gives you a little more control. And we'll also do the Kramer tape here. And let's get these dialed in. Mic. Bus 4, just this, they model different channels, so. So we've now applied sort of the coloring to the track. So now that we've got the color we want, I want to start doing some EQ and some compression. So for drums, for drums and bass, I've already done parallel compression, so I'm not really going to do a lot of bus compression. I'm going to do a tiny bit. But the first thing I want to do is note that on the drums, I'm using a loop. And generally, I don't like to mess with the EQ or compression of loops too much because they're pretty much processed to sound professional out of the box. So if we look at this drum loop, that sounds pretty damn good. You don't really want to mess with that. There's, you know, I might just do a slight high end, low end cut here. And just in the context of this song, I think a little let's go with the low frequency. little low end gets you there. I'm not going to add any, I used parallel compression already on the drums, so I'm not going to add an additional layer of compression because I think they're probably already compressed. They sound compressed to me. So on the percussion bus, we're actually going to go to the bongo channel and the tambourine channel. Those are the two most important. And we'll do those on a channel by channel EQ. I just like to use, so I've already done a low end cut. And there's too much reverb on it. Compress the hell out of this. So what we want to do with this is just kind of make it an airy, colorful little layer. And we're mostly doing that right now. We might actually want to take the low pass filter or the high pass filter even higher. Maybe pan it a little bit more. And this tambourine is just a little bright. And the triangle is also a little, let's take that low end out. So the triangle had a little peak here. For the bass, I've already parallel compressed it. So what I want to do is just make it sit a little better with the drums and the guitar and everything else. And I'm just going to be cutting here. So I'm just boosting. I'm going to do a very narrow boost. I held it down, Alt to. So 230 sounds like it's a little muddy to me, so I'm going to pull that out. This is probably a little extreme. And then we'll add a high pass filter on the low end just to bring out that attack a little bit. Again, already compression there, so we're not going to go there. Now, on the guitar buzz, I'm going to go on this guitar double here. Where is it? So this is the low of bass, or low guitar doubling the bass. So I want to separate that from the bass more. I've already done a low pass filter, but let's. E mode makes it narrower. And we'll keep mute here. That's the part I want. We want to make this not as high focused. The low mid-range. This one, we're going to cut even more from the low end. this more about the high. So that's the frequency we don't want. So we still need some of these fundamentals down here. And finally on the guitar bus, we'll just add a little light compression because there's not a ton. You don't really want to compress guitar too much, but I'm just going to use an 2A, LA2A style compressor. Slow, gentle. Just reduce some of the peaks, not a ton of. It already is adding some gain now. Just taking some of the edge off there. So now that you've got compression, EQ, and coloring on your bass, on your tracks and on your buses, you want to save your mix, which I just did, and then sit on it, sleep on it for a few days, listen to it on various stereos and things like that, see how it translates. And from there, what you're going to want to do is then start thinking about mastering, where you bring everything together, enhance the volume, and make it sound just beautiful. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe. Hopefully you learned something. If you did, let me know. If there's more that you'd like to learn and want me to focus on anything in particular, please let me know.